There we go. Okay, guys, so you're going to have to tolerate me talking on my phone because this is the only way we're going to do audio successfully, it would appear, this evening. So what we're going to talk through is our journey with Mulesoft so far. Literally a year ago, Mulesoft was literally just appearing in our lives. So, so this is really all brand new to us. So we thought we'd share some of what we've learned. So Ava, could you take me through to slide 3, please? Thank you so much. So what you'll see here, guys, is basically the situation as we have it right when we started. The integration within the applications that we have were using IBM Broker, which is our integration tool for numbers of the applications that we offer. The replacement, therefore, was to do this seamlessly with Mulesoft for integrations and projects going forward. So we thought we'd share a little bit about what that's actually meant to us. So that's what we're going to cover for the next 10-15 minutes or so. So if I go to slide 4, what we'll show you is some of what we had involved in that. So on slide 4, you will see the components we're working with. So over the last year, we have a mobile app, which was our first integration with Mulesoft. We did that with our integration partner, Hexaware, who really had to take the lead for us in those early days. For those the Mulesoft Fundamentals course, you'll probably realize, which maybe we didn't fully originally, is how long it can take to get the fundamentals training completed. It really was a challenge, and we wanted to bring a whole community of developers with us. Whilst we were doing that, so we had our mobile app launch last year. That was our first Mulesoft integration. But equally, that wasn't the only thing going on. We also have a Salesforce program where we're deploying that. We have a significant piece of work for our financial services arm. And I mentioned the financial services arm because one of the things that we had to do from the start is we couldn't get too much wrong. We had to be secure from the outset. And these are some of the things that when you first pick up Mulesoft, when we were following our more experienced partner through, we did a lot of things in a particular way, and then we have learned and wanted to adapt that as we move on. So that's really the landscape that we started with, and the first projects that we were going to be doing. So if I move to slide 5, Andy redid these slides for you, so they're so much more simplistic and visual. So if I move on to slide 5, you will see we brought an integration community together. So this is really about DevOps and really about how we learn and pairing and all of that good stuff being used to bring this to life for us. So our integration team is actually a community of a number of the devs, many of which are on this call this evening. We've systematically learned together. Now, that sounds like a really easy thing to do, but that is not where we started from. That's not how we used to bring on new software or programming skills, etc. So as many people as possible have gone through the Mulesoft Fundamentals course. As I say, that did take a while. But whilst that was going on, we've equally endeavored to try and get our API strategy in place. And we've had to support, obviously, the training with a lot of ongoing development and experience. For a lot of those people on the call, I know Francis alluded to this, and I know Vivenka alluded to this as well. It's not a quick road to success. And maybe, I think at first, one of the things that we learned is we maybe underestimated how much effort was there. And I'm watching Francis laughing because he knows what I'm saying is very true here. So what we've had to actually do is yes, do the training, but we've had to build our experience literally whilst learning how to do our integrations for our app and other positions as well. So one of the things that we've learned is that we've got to keep this stuff simultaneously moving, and we've had to keep we've had to keep meeting regularly and growing the skill across the group. This was not something where we started with a lot of perfectly formed experts. We've had to do that as we were literally trying to deploy, which definitely isn't the easiest, but where we've had to go. So I want to talk a little bit about our experience with Mulesoft and how they've supported us in that, because I know a lot of people were asking us, but how did you do it? So on slide 6, if I show you, huge credit to my colleague Andy, who would have loved to have been here this evening. They've spent time with Mulesoft Connect. We've picked up a lot of hints and tips from this forum and from a couple of other places. Another big learn for us is that we didn't fully appreciate how much we would benefit from the data weave training. We did that a little bit late for some of our developers, and clearly, I think on reflection, we didn't realize how much we would get from that, but it came later and we're learning now. So these are just some of the things that we were utilizing in order to embellish our skills and keep growing and learning as we went. So if I give you an idea of how that's actually panned out, if I take you to slide 7, what you'll see here, and I'm really proud of the work the guys did here, because they were perfecting all of this, developing the app at the same time as completing their training. But you can see here in this very simple demonstration, can you see the reuse component between the web and the customer orders and the customer service and the customer orders? These are reusable pieces of code that we used, and all of this was being done, as I say, as we were learning through projects, etc. So here's one of our first examples of us making use of that reuse principle and making it work for our mobile app. So this is our first, this is more or less one of our first endeavors. So this is how we used the experience APIs linked with the process and the system APIs. This is a demonstration of where we went to first. As you can see, there's not necessarily a lot of transformation going on here, but it was our first real enablement and adoption of Mulesoft in action. If I go on to slide 8, one of the things we're really quite proud of, and we worked very hard with Mulesoft themselves, who supported us through a number of these things. We've been able to actually implement the API fragments. Here's an example of ours. You'll see our little studio customer type, the one that we've created there, in our assets. The thing that I'm probably most proud of with the team is that we have tried to really adopt that reuse principle and do a lot of the best practice things as soon as we fully understood them and as soon as we could implement them. So in this instance, what the guys have done is map out for future projects all of the different ways in which data will be moved between the different systems, and we've actually mapped out how those API fragments should work and standardize the data. Now, again, a lesson learned here is we had to do a lot of work. We had to do much more work up front than maybe we realized, and for the people, those first projects going through that, that's a learn, is that your first, you certainly have much more overhead than you anticipate. You certainly had a lot more to do right up front, but clearly things are getting easier for us now. So it was absolutely worth the investment, but probably not an investment we fully appreciated we needed to make back in those early months of bringing this together. If I move down into the API specifications, this is just one very quick example, and when you see the slides, you'll see this, of where we've used the API specs to be very, very clear about what it is we're trying to do. And if you can see in the very small, you'll see where those are input from standard things. It's a little bit small, but you will be able to see this when we send the slides around later. Another thing, if you can just about see it, thanks guys. As you can see the input, you can see the Exchange module there under the users. And you can see what we posted, the display name is credit check, and you can see how we've put an example of our API specification together there. give you a second so you can have a little look at that. If I move into slide 10, what we're going to talk a little bit about here is our CD and CI and our DevOps endeavors. It's really important to take note of. We weren't just doing Mulesoft, but whilst we were doing all these things, we really were genuinely trying to adopt and really live DevOps principles. And we've had to grow that at the same time. So what I'm really proud of, and again, we're going to show you, there's a couple of, the next slide shows you a little bit of this. We have from a very, very early stage used Bitbucket as our repository, and we've used Jenkins to make sure that we are as close as we can sensibly be at the moment towards a CI/CD methodology. So we are able to promote in some of our areas through to test environments and then through to production. We do have controls around the production release, but we have managed to automate a great deal of this. So our Mulesoft pipeline, in many cases, is at least semi-automated, I would say, and in constant development. This is really helping us emphasize the need to really work on Mulesoft, but to be able to do that with the other automated process. That's saving us a lot of time from a development perspective. But again, it was huge investment when we first did it. But we're definitely seeing the benefits of doing this now. The other things, we're going to pull out a few tools and things which we've complemented Mulesoft with to show you how we very practically made sure it's secure and how we're making sure we're doing all the right things whilst bringing in this brand new tool, brand new integration method. One of the things we wanted to call out, because I think it was through one of your sessions we actually first heard about it, we're trialing SonarQube to get our coding standards to a really good quality. That's only in trial at the moment, so maybe in a little while we'll come back and give you a more technical version of how we're doing that and how that's looking. The really important thing with Mulesoft, we work in an FCA-regulated business, and because of that, as if everybody isn't interested in security around their applications, we are absolutely almost paranoid about it. So all the time we're looking at how do we, as soon as possible, make something really efficient, how do we make sure it's secure, and the team have been hugely supportive of that and helping us get to that place. So maybe we'll tell you a little bit more about SonarQube, and we're using that for code quality, but we'll tell you about that in coming times. If we go down to slide 11, what you see here is a little bit of a screenshot of the Jenkins build and the deployment, and you can see the number of deploys now that we've got working this way. You can see the last successful and the last failed. So we're certainly not perfect at this, but we're trying to take our Mulesoft work down into a direction of DevOps from the outset. And obviously, that's taking some time in amongst everything else, but certainly working really quite well for us. And if I go to slide 12, and where we are now, I hope you can tell from the way I talk about the team and the work they're doing, I am so immensely proud of what they've achieved inside of a year. Not only do we now produce APIs through Mulesoft, they're also secure. We have a service support model. One of the things we share is how useful we found as it is at Dynamics to do some monitoring of our Mulesoft estate and make sure that we're well informed about what's going on. As you saw with the original slides, for us, it's all about understanding what Mule is providing for us and the integrations with our mobile app, which is provided by a third party, being able to work with our credit check component of our checkout at our website. Again, another partner involved in there. So we've got, over the last year, lots of different component parts, and Mulesoft is the glue that's holding all that together and making sure that messaging is done in an efficient way. Clearly, we've learned a huge amount about how much effort is actually needed to enable Mulesoft development. Knowing what we know now, we probably would have had to have started training for Mulesoft many months ahead of starting our first project, but it just wasn't a luxury that we had. So we have learned as we've gone. We are using pairing to help people gain experience. And our gaining experience is a fortnightly or monthly event where the devs get back together and we talk about what we've learned, who's pairing with who, what those experiences are. And we've learned that we cannot let that go. That's got to be a constant part of our work. Coming right up to date, one of the things we've started to use more and more in recent months is really getting to grips with MUnit for our unit testing, etc. We knew it was there, but I think we're learning to maximize that more and more. And that is really supporting our test-driven design methodology, which we want to really accelerate in the coming year. So I think what we're showing, we've had a lot to do. We've also had things that we've had to encounter, just like everybody in the market at the moment. We've had to really question ourselves about how secure we've made our APIs. We've had to really think about how we've created those integrations and make sure those qualities are there. There's so many things we could talk to you about, but again, that was another really important part. Creating the fragments library for a reusable domain model has been hugely important for us. And knowing what we know now, it's taken more time. So for the projects that we're trying to deploy things for our business stakeholders, that's certainly been a learn. There's been a lot more time needed there. And I would recommend to anybody really think about investing in these things, but be prepared for the first projects that trailblaze in these topics. There is much more time needed than maybe realized. We're doing a much better job now of splitting out, to split in the middle of the domain model, the experience layer and the system layer. Again, we weren't as crystal clear on segmenting those things out originally, but we've got much, much better at it. Business logic logically control the process, but APIs are connecting all the domains together. And more that we find a lot of moving parts now in our estate, so lots of third parties involved, etc. It is proving to be easier to plug and unplug integrations now, but again, I don't think we're fully benefiting from that yet. We will do some more transformative work with our APIs this year, and we'll get a lot more clever with what their capability is. And again, that's really what year 2 is going to hold for us. A widening of the types of APIs we're providing, and also the complexity of them. So I dare say we will do a more technical presentation for in the coming months when we learn another load of lessons from doing that. And one of the final things I would say, I know we say these things all the time, but the standardization and organization of our work is something that we know it's true, but it takes time and investment to get those things done. And though we weren't perfect in the early outset, we've got, again, much better with our standardization and things moving forward, and hence API architecture and things are becoming stronger. So we could talk to you about all manner of things and the security of our APIs and a whole plethora of other things, but hopefully we just wanted to share some of the really practical side of what we've been doing for the past year, and I'll be happy for our team to be more involved and show you some of our more technical stuff maybe next time around. But thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience this evening, because clearly the internet was going to let me down at some point. Does anybody have any questions?
Just checking for you, Callie. Thank you.
You're welcome. So there's one there. There's one there from Toby saying, how did you build your DevOps pipeline? Are you building the jar file using Maven and then using the Anypoint CLI to deploy? I think we're partly. I think the answer is yes, and partly. I think I would let one of my developers talk you through. If you're interested in seeing our pipeline and how we've done that, some of my brilliant colleagues are actually on this conference call, and they could talk you through. They could talk you through the details of that. I'm just looking down at other questions.
Ah, yes.
I can't see any further at the minute.
There's one there, Callie. It says, what's been the biggest challenge skills-wise in building the platform?
That's a great question. Skills-wise, I think getting us to a place. There's so much to get really good at with Mulesoft. I just mentioned MUnit. Getting MUnit understood was probably a biggie for us. Probably the data weave stuff. The guys have done some of the wider courses on it, but hadn't sat the specific course until after they'd started developing. And I think the general feedback was we maybe could have done that another way around. So that was one of our biggest challenges, was getting the training and upskilling at the same time as actually practicing, because we needed to get going with our developments. So I think the data weave thing, don't misunderstand how important that is. Getting the MUnit piece into our test-driven design is a biggie, and really getting it from a skills perspective, being able to overlay that with some of my colleagues here who are brilliant with Bitbucket and Jenkins, and we're already building CI and CD pipelines. I definitely think having some more experience, and I use that word not just attended the training, but having really experienced Mulesoft people around you, and the help of Mulesoft to help us with our skills matrix, and using our roadmap of our development, which we're doing actually with Mulesoft directly, has all contributed. But it's a difficult skill to acquire to a really good level. And I think that's the thing. I think you can sit a training course, but you cannot get away from the experience that you need with Mulesoft to be really good with it.
Good point. There's a couple of questions here. Callie, I'll get it from Kevin. How did you find the engagement with the business stakeholders and the API modeling design side?
Wow, that's a great question. The business stakeholders, that's been very tricky. I think because for all of us technical people, we enjoy this stuff and we understand its benefit. I think selling the benefit was harder, I think. I have to shout out to some of our architects and a colleague whose name's Ian Smith, who really did keep selling the story for why this was a foundational piece for us as a business to get Mulesoft in, and would lay the foundations for other things. That message they bought into in the end, but I don't think that was an easy ask for our leadership team and for Chris and for Ian to actually achieve way back when. I think in the coming year, they'll start to really appreciate why. They buy the concept, but it really was a difficult thing. And my word to the wise would be, you just can't let up. You've got to keep helping people understand what problem they're solving and why this will be a benefit to them. But for non-technical folks, I do think it's a challenge.
There's a supplementary question there that I'm going to hit you with now, from Kevin again. Did the stakeholders appreciate the need for some upfront domain data modeling you alluded to? Perhaps this was not initially appreciated by the stakeholders. So what changed? Was it just sheer hard work?
That's a brilliant question. Yeah. So I don't think to this day the stakeholders actually appreciate it. They're business people. They are brilliant in their own right, but they don't appreciate what the modeling gives you, and the fact that it makes it much easier to map data. I think that's something that the IT team and the developers have done a really good job of enforcing and helping people to understand and keep reiterating those messages. I think the thing with Mulesoft is you have a different conversation with stakeholders than you do with your technical colleagues. And I think that's okay, and I think that's necessary. I get really excited about this, and like I say, I'm so incredibly proud of the team, but it's not something stakeholders appreciate. However, when you say to them, but if you don't like that supplier next year, we can disconnect them and put another one in their place and you'll get better benefit, that they understand. I think with Mulesoft, it's particularly important that the techs have the technical conversation, and our architects and our strategy people keep selling the vision about what you're getting as a result of that, maybe without some of the tech talk.
Perfect. I've got a great question here, Callie, for you from Lynn. Why did you choose to use Mulesoft rather than the IBM broker for your new project?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Lynn Bell. Why did we do it? Great industry-wide tool, service bus methodology. As much as I love Mulesoft and I love my tech, the reality is I'm an agnostic. As much as possible, I want great foundations. And if I want to change the supplier of A, B, or C product, then I should be able to. By using service bus technology, I free myself to be able to do that. So to some extent, I'm quite brutal in that I'll say I want headless technology, in that if we don't like the partner we work with today, we should be able to keep our service bus infrastructure in place and replace that particular component really easily, or integrate other things much more easily. And that fundamentally felt right with Mulesoft. They're a great company to work with. They're really helping us with the road mapping. They're keeping an eye on us and helping us with different training and needs all the time. So they work for us in that respect.
Callie, thank you so much. I think we'll leave it there.